Hello, everybody, and welcome here to another Kerfuffle webinar. And I am delighted, in fact, honoured to have Steve Mead of Crux Training and Recruitment now, isn't it, Steve? How are you, sir?
I'm very well, Bailey. Always good to see you. You okay?
You've used my stage name there, but okay, we'll persist with. We'll continue. I'm good. I'm good. Everyone's in a good place at the moment, aren't they? Okay. So Steve. Obviously, everyone knows you guys. Multifaceted business over at Cruxdale. On the one hand, you've got the recruitment angle. We're here talking today about the training and development. I think you guys have obviously been incredibly well known for. And title of today is why estate agents should embrace training. So can I kick it off right from the beginning, then, Steve? If that's all right. Let's start with the obvious one and I know it's teaching a granny to suck eggs. Why is training important, and why is it important specifically for estate agents?
Okay, I think the easy answer to that is it's not so much why I think it's important these days. I think it's the new demographic of people we've got coming into the industry. And whereas 20 years ago it was very much the same sort of people coming through, just younger versions. Now the requirements of somebody coming into a business are very, very different from the way it used to be. It used to be very sort of money at the top of the list, and then work down as to what the priorities are. I think now, and we've done a lot of research into that. Over 70% of people, when they've obviously been a recruitment company, we talk to a lot of new candidates. 70% of people in the top two is training and development. That's what they're looking for. So they're looking for a business that's able to offer that. So I think it's important.
Sorry, Steve, just on that point, do you know, are there any figures around that for going back, what that would have looked like, or just as a gut feel, how would that have changed going back 10 or 20 years ago?
I think from a personal point of view, and knowing and having worked in sales and marketing and in the property sector for a long time, both here and abroad, I think money would have been probably 75% of people. It would have been top of their list, probably 80%. As it would be, I think, generally in any sales organisation, sales environment. Whereas now, as I said, money will probably come about third or fourth on the list. It's actually very, very surprising. People of the 20 to sort of 30-year age age band, they're looking for something. They're looking for an experience. And I know, obviously, there is all this around. There's not going to be any brand loyalty, but I think there will be brand loyalty if businesses can adapt and can change to what the younger generation are actually looking for. And the training that we do, we were speaking off air, Sam, obviously earlier. The training that we do, the favourite side of it from my point of view is people development. Most of the businesses we work with are great estate agents. Yeah. They know how to list. They've got great negotiators. They know how to go out there and prospect. But whilst a lot of business owners are great at all that transactional stuff, it's the people development and team development which is really, really important. And I think that's where a lot of people miss out. We've been doing leadership and management training with our friend John Davis for an awful long time. And I can say, hand on heart, everyone we put through the retreats that we do on the leadership and management piece come out of there going, wow. It's not just changed the way I look at my business and how I can go back and, what I can put into place in the business. It's also changed from a personal point of view. We have a lot of people talking about that. So I think training is important for a lot of reasons, a lot of different reasons. And I think as well, one thing that has come across from all the people, because obviously we try and get feedback from everyone, is training with exterior people. So in other words, not in-house training. And I know that's obviously, pushing what we do, but the engagement when you engage with people from outside of your business from a training point of view, the engagement from your people is massively different, and that's I think a very, very important matter.
And that's having the time to focus. Literally, there's no distractions. It's literally about you're here to do one thing, and that's to develop both yourself and the business forwards.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we just delivered a couple of days for a great company up in Yorkshire there, and who you'll know very well. And 30 of their managers have been down to us. They had a day out down at our retreat in Newark, and the feedback we've had has been absolutely phenomenal. And a lot of people said, look, it's just great to get out of the business as well and focus on something that, we wouldn't normally do. If we had a 2 or 3 hour training session within the business, or we had a Zoom session with someone, and we are going to be doing follow-up Zooms with them, but we felt it was important that they had that initial day just to see exactly what it was, what we were all about, what we were trying to achieve. And the feedback and buy into what we were doing was excellent.
No, and I obviously do know that business well. And I mean, it was such a stupid question to ask anyway, but I thought it was important, as you've highlighted, that change of approach there. There's no doubt at all, is there, that is it? Do you think it is a generational thing? Is it just that there seems to be more complexity about those requirements? Does that come from things like, am I being an old fuddy-duddy here, where so many of these youngsters today have the bank of mum and dad so that the money is less important, or is it more nuanced than that?
No, I don't think it's the bank of mum and dad making money less important. I think it's just the mindset of the younger generation is just very different to mine and yours, and the likes of the guys that we, in our sort of demographic that we've worked with in the industry for a long time. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot of great business owners out there who are they'll listen and they adapt, and they're happy to sit down and say, right, okay, yeah, I take that on board. But there are also a lot out there who go, listen, we've been estate agents for 50 years. We don't need to be taught how to do this. I'm sorry, to be honest with you, most of them do, because when you actually go and have a look at, any of the stats and see that they're probably only the 10th best agent in their area, then obviously there's massive room for improvement.
The good news there is, Steve, though, isn't it? Is actually, whilst it's more complex to be able to, when you just had one focus, which was satisfying money needs, actually a lot of the things the generational that is coming into it now, if you deliver on their needs and requirements, the business actually benefits far greater anyway, doesn't it, as well? To have that self-development ethos there, I mean, you'd bite someone's hand off, really, to have that willingness to get better skills into your business, wouldn't you, normally?
Absolutely. And you take any business, even the great businesses that we work with, there are people within that business that we identify from time to time who are either, for whatever reason, it might be they've not been recognised for something, they feel that they're worth more financially, any number of reasons, but they become disengaged.
Yeah.
And when you've got disengaged people within your business, that makes a massive, massive difference, because it might be 1 out of 20, but sooner or later, you imagine, just a scenario, you've got a young guy coming into the business as a trainee. If that guy hooks up with that person, or and they're listening to hangs on their every word, you've got a trainee coming into the business that is listening to absolute nonsense, totally negative, and before you know it, you've got a couple of people who are like it, and it is very, very difficult. It's what we try and do is we try and allow or help business owners and business directors and managers to, one, to prevent that happening, but two, to identify it and nip it in the bud before it can get even worse. Because we're all about, speaking to David up at Moneypenny when we were last met, we're all about staff retention and making sure that your people perform to the best of their ability. But also, because we work within these businesses on that basis, and we go in and we look at the values and the culture, as a company as a whole, whenever we're required to go and find a candidate for them, we know exactly the sort of people they're looking for. So, as I said to you, and you mentioned at the beginning, we are a 360-degree recruitment, training, consultancy, HR. We do the whole.
Very powerful, yeah.
Yeah.
And your point there about mood, I mean, mood is famously infectious. I mean, we both like our footy, and you see it in footy clubs, don't you, where it can turn into a really negative thing, difficult to break out of as well. And famously, new starters tend to spend the first few days looking around, don't they? And they adopt the culture of the business they approach so often. So it's that can work positively, of course, can't it? Because if you've got the right culture, and we all know, many of those businesses that work with you have that, whereby you get that training bounce, that attitude bounce, don't you, from coming in and saying, right, I'm going to have to up my game, keep it consistent here.
Yeah, that's true. And I think as well, a lot of the training we do is around the recruitment side as well, so it's attracting the right people and making sure that you have got someone that's within the parameters of how your culture and values do actually work within the business. Because if you're trying to bring somebody in and you're trying to completely remold them, that often doesn't work. That can be more of a challenge, and you're investing more time in trying to get that person aligned with how your business is than, when you've got more important things to be doing. But, if you've got someone who is basically aligned of the same mindset, you can then mold them exactly how you like. And, you know, a lot of people are looking there. To be fair, I was talking to an interviewee the other day and they said, yeah, it went very well. I thought they were a really good company. I was actually wondering, you know, asking them how they felt they were interviewed. But they sort of turned it on its head, said, yeah, they were a decent company. I'd consider working with these guys. So it's, you know, it's a two-way street now.
And people do forget that, don't they? I mean, often, obviously, especially where the job market is at the moment, is you've got to work that both ways. There's a famous phrase, Steve, isn't there, that, you know, people should hire on attitude and train on skill. Clearly, there's a huge amount of truth in that, but where does it end? I mean, you can't can you take a completely raw person there, or does it just depend on the I suppose it depends on the job itself, is the obvious point?
I think one thing that I've noticed over the last couple of years is that, and I think we've had to, with the drought of really, really good candidates out there in the last sort of 9-12 months, because obviously a lot of people wanting to stick where they are. We've identified people from other businesses, from other industries, should I say, not other businesses, other industries that have got the skill sets and can be moulded into great estate agents, you know, and people who want to forge a career path. Obviously, if you take someone on as a trainee, you've got them completely, you know, they're fresh. They don't know, they've got no old habits. They just want to learn. And if you've got someone who's a sponge and just wants to learn and wants to take everything in, then you're onto a winner. And listen, we've placed lots of great trainees that, you know, are now flourishing in the businesses. But they've got to have engaged with the right business.
Yeah.
You know, and if that business, you know, you put a trainee in and they just get left to their own devices and they're effectively start off as the dog's body, the runaround, you know, go and make the tea, or, you know, last minute viewing, just go and do that viewing. They get no training. It's very, very difficult. And it's like management as well. You know, I was talking to, name dropping, but I had a meeting with Eric Walker the other day, and we were talking about management training. Yeah. I said, how many times have you seen people plunged into a management role and gone, right, okay, get on with it? They get no training whatsoever. Yeah. They've been a great, they've been a great salesperson, or great, you know, whatever role they've had within the business, but generally a great salesperson. But great salespeople don't necessarily make great managers. They need to be trained how to be great managers, and that's again another reason why it's very, very important. Because you always, realistically, the best. One, you're saving yourself on recruitment fees anyway, but you want to promote within your business, from within your business. You know, because that way the transition is much easier.
Yep, they get the call.
Your people buy into it better. You know, you've got somebody coming in from the outside and taking on a management role. It's like the footy analogy you used. You know, you're going to get an initial bounce maybe, but then somehow, you know, they start to form opinions. So, you know, it's always more beneficial to promote from within the industry, or within the business, should I say. And again, that is one thing that we feel through the training that we offer, you know, that people are enabled, business owners are able to do that.
And the other really obvious point in an industry that is known endemically for its churn rates and everything else, you were just mentioned it very quickly there about staff retention, but of course, it can only help improve that staff retention, can't it? In terms of where you're delivering these requirements for people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, we pride ourselves on the fact that, you know, the vast majority of people we place with businesses, we've got a great team at Crux, and the guys there pay special attention to ensuring that we place the right people with the right businesses. And I know every recruitment company will tell you that, but we actually do sit down and think, right, okay, is that the right person? Is that the right fit? And if it's not, we won't offer them up there. You know, it's not just a case of, right, okay, let's just throw as many as we can at a particular business. So that's really, really important. And, you know, that's why, you know, the likes of like Miles back in the business, he spends so much time learning about a company's values and cultures. The guys who are doing Steph, Eliana, Lorenzo, you know, the guys who are sourcing the candidates, they're given a brief. This is how we work. You know, this is how these guys work. This is what they're looking for. You know, we need to make sure that we get them the right people that fit with their culture and values. You know, and I think, you know, we do a great job of that. And I think a lot of the businesses that we work with will back that up.
Well, you have worked with us. I have to obviously claim a bias here, because you found us two of our fantastic team members, and that absolutely was true. It wasn't just a case of sending over a CV or job requirement and this is what we're looking for there. It was, well, I suppose we are slightly different to a number of companies, if people are polite, and understanding that kind of that cultural fit and everything was really, really important for what came through. And
yeah. Wasn't the easiest description.
No, I'm not very good at getting it down on paper. That's if I'm honest. Steve, as well, one of the things that I've said it so many times that I'm starting to get bored of my own record, but it needs saying, because it's so true, is you hear a lot of people pay lip service to the, oh, you know, our people come first. We heavily believe in training. You know, all of those types of things. And then the minute that the market tightens, the first thing that goes out the window is the training and development budget and everything else there. Are we getting better at this sort of stuff? Is it, you know, do you see that? Do you agree with that as just in terms of a sort of kind of where we're up to now? Is the problem getting everybody to see the importance of external training and development the issue here?
Yeah, I think we've come through a mad 2 years, haven't we? So it's you know, looking back over those 2 years, obviously there was a lot of knee-jerk reactions, I think, from businesses in relation to where they do make their savings, thinking obviously that we were going to go through a really raw period. But as it happens, you know, we were fortunate that our industry wasn't really impacted on, and it thrived, didn't it? Yeah, you know. So to answer your question, I think there are definitely great people and great businesses within the industry that wouldn't, that knee-jerk reaction wouldn't be, right, okay, training and development out the window. I think what you might see happen is that they concentrate on doing something more in-house, you know, because, you know, rather than because if people are used to getting training and they're used to that sort of development, they want that to continue. And obviously the last 2 years has been a real tough time. It's funny, I was speaking to a friend of mine who I helped him start up a U-Move franchise in East London in July last year. And we were talking about training, and we were talking about sales training. We both met in the motor trade in, I forget what year it was, but it was a long time ago. I think we worked out, it was about 38 years ago when we first started working together.
I was only two. No.
And we said back then, the training we got, I mean, we had, you know, as it was back then, a company called Souls used to do all the automotive training. We went on the Souls courses, and we went on the manufacturers courses, and we had, you know, every morning meeting, it was right, okay, what we're going to talk about today? Let's talk about overcoming objections. Let's talk about you know, forecourt presentation, whatever it was. But we were doing, it was ongoing, it was always happening. And we just said, you know, do businesses do that sort of thing? Now, I know a lot of businesses have early morning sales meetings. Yep. But are those early morning sales meetings just right, okay, who did what yesterday? Who's going to do what today? I mean, is there 15, 20 minutes put aside for, right, okay, who's struggling with what at the moment? What can we talk about? And, you know, we're doing a lot of continual programs with quite a few businesses now where we do bi-monthly like Zoom calls, and we're working with Charlotte as well from the Able Agent.
Able Agent, fantastic business. Yeah, they're great, yeah.
So we're doing that, and also I'm doing sort of bi-monthly Zoom calls with them for a couple of hours and actually bringing it to life. So, you know, right, okay, let's go through what courses you've covered over the last sort of 2 months since we last met. And that's really, people are really engaged with that, you know, which is great. So, and that sort of, you know, a lot of businesses are really busy as well at the moment. So I know finding time to send people out on courses, send people out on training, there'll always be an easy excuse, because obviously, you know, there's a lot of people looking for staff at the moment. Yeah. There's a lot of businesses that are really really busy at the moment and can't afford the time. So to be able to have that sort of offering is really useful from our point of view.
I think that's game changing, isn't it, Steve? Really is, you know, that, as you said, it's funny when agents talk about prospecting, which of course we all know is, you know, one of the absolutely core, if not the core activity you can do. And they will happily accept that, you know, feast and famine is not, you know, is not the way to go in that particular, keeping consistencies there. But actually, when they come to training, that's exactly what they do. Okay, we'll send out somebody on a course just once every year, once every 6 months or whatever else. And of course, what always happens is that everyone's inspired, everyone's, you know, in the right place, but then it starts to drift off there. So that ability to stay in touch, that, as you, what did you call it? Continual improvement or continual?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's continual improvement, it's continual development, really, isn't it? It's like, you know, what we've done with our guys up in Yorkshire that we were discussing. As I said, they've had 2 initial days, 30 managers in the business, 2 groups of 15, and then we're following that up now with bi-monthly Zoom calls, and then I think it's in August, September time, we're going back up there, we're doing another whole day with all of them together, and then further. So it's a 12-month program. And it's a 12-month program that they know as well. If they want to, then they can, you know, they can go again with it. But they're that forward thinking that they said, right, okay, let's do the managers first, because obviously it all comes from the top. Training and development comes from the top. Let's do the managers first, then let's identify which different members or which different departments from the team we actually get in front of you, so you can help them develop as well. Because whatever we do on a leadership and management basis, we've got something as well that enables the team to understand why their management and their directors and the business owners are making the changes that they're making. Because, you know, one big thing we do with the leadership and management stuff, our big retreat, which is a 6-day retreat, starts off with 2 days, and then we do a day a month at Crux HQ. And that'll be coaching and mentoring, that'll be performance management, all the things that you mentioned earlier. We actually get the guys to go back, we give them homework, go back to the business, implement this. Speak to the head honcho, whoever it might be, speak to your director and say, look, we want to implement this. This we believe is going to make a massive difference. Why is it going to make a massive difference? Blah, blah, blah. They can go through it and implement it back in the business. The team below, obviously the team on the floor, shop floor, they need to understand why those changes are being made as well.
Yeah.
So, you know,
you won't take them with you, will you?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, we know from the businesses we've worked with for, you know, the last 5 years or so, we know that it works. And it's, you know, it's for us, it's a no-brainer, but it's, you know, we know training's not inexpensive, but every business should have a training budget. Yeah. You know, especially with the monies that, you know, the majority of businesses have earned for the last 2 years.
Is there a magic ratio, Steve, or does it just come back to, I mean, is it 2%, 5%, 10%? Where just gut feel, where do you feel what you should be investing as part of it?
Well, I don't know. You know, I think personally, I don't think 10% is an unreasonable figure.
No, it doesn't sound it to me, does it?
No, it's not. You know, I mean, you look at, you know, how much businesses actually spend on marketing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
famously they say 10% on marketing is a sensible amount of that. And but then what's interesting there is as well, and it's exactly the same here, is well, it depends what sort of culture and where you are in the business. So with marketing, if you're in for a land grab and you want big exposure, people will say, yeah, go from 10% up to 20%, you know, even looking at that there. Obviously you don't have to keep that consistent, but I do see, you know, there's no magic in this, in terms of, you see those best businesses. You and I are both lucky enough to work with some of the very best, some of the same companies here, and they have an absolute hunger for that development, both of themselves as individuals and everything else. And I think one of the frustrations I've seen is being lucky enough to have gone around the world and seeing, you know, sort of in America, and this is estate agent or real estate training, as they would call it, and obviously over in Australia, and you see the big shows over there, the big, you know, sort of EA Masters style affairs with AREC, and the people, the negotiators and the valuers themselves have paid to go there. You know, it's not just a junket, it's not just a jolly from the business that has paid for its staff and everything else. You know, they genuinely see the need and requirement to keep their business skills honed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And why wouldn't you? You know, and I also as well, I don't get, well, if you're spending 10%, if you've got a 10% marketing budget, why would you not invest 10% of last year's profit in your team? Yeah. You know, they're the lifeblood of your business. Yeah. You know, and you know, a great team can save you a fortune in marketing as well. You know, you know, it's great. For me, it's a no-brainer, and it's very, very difficult. And you know, trying to comprehend why people just don't engage, it really is for me.
Yeah, well, so let's talk about that aspect then, Steve. The whole aspect we're talking about here is, you know, how to build essentially a high-performing team here. We were talking off camera the other day, and we were talking about it. I think you highlighted there was kind of four key areas. There's obviously the personalities in your business. We'll come back and go through these in detail. There's
Yeah.
conflict management as an issue. There's performance management, and then there's coaching and mentoring. So starting off with that first point there, Steve, the personalities in your business. What do you need to get right there? I mean, is it just is it that obvious one? Hire for attitude.
No, I think it's more than that. I think it's understanding. It's for managers and business owners to understand that, whilst in a business they may have 5 negotiators, let's just say as an example, in a decent sized business, those 5 negotiators are 5 very, very different people. And what pushes their buttons is also very, very different.
Yeah.
We do a lot of work around the colours, around personality profiling, with any of the courses we do, and it helps us understand exactly the sort of people. So we've got that generally before we even start the course. So we've got an idea of the sort of people that we've got coming in. Now, you've got people who, the very sort of red people who are, they're dynamic, they're loud, a bit like you and I, a bit like you and me, I suppose. It's just, very sort of very sales orientated, very, very driven. And it doesn't matter if you get knocked down, you get up and you get on with it again. You've got other people who are a lot more, it's in here. They're like that, but if, as an example, let me give you, if they get a bollocking in the sales meeting, early morning sales meeting, that's them done for the day.
Yeah.
You've got to be really, really, really very careful as to how you treat each different people, all the different people in your team. You've got people that are very, analytic, and they'll look at everything, they'll examine everything, and then you've got people that struggle with change. So there's lots of different variants out there, and it's understanding how to deal with all these very different people. And not only that as well, what's really important, I think, is, when we're going out and talking to clients, it's the ability as well to understand exactly who you've got sat in front of you. Because, if you've got the totally analytical guy who, all he's interested in is the EPC and the square footage and, this, that, and the other, there's no point jumping in there and going, look at this fantastic swimming pool, and you've got, you've got this driveway where you can put 5 or 6 cars. No, people are not in there, they're not interested. So I think going back to the workplace, the most important thing is identifying the sort of people that you've got within your business, how you deal with those people. And again, this then goes on to conflict management, how you deal with issues that you've got within your business, and how people react, because people react to a rollicking in different ways. People like the arm around the shoulder.
Yep.
People like financial incentive. Everything is very, very different. And, we just go through, what we do is we just go through the whole lot and just and try and help people understand how they can get the very best out of these people and help them realize their full potential. Because that's what we feel we're all about. So personality piece, that's very important. The conflict management, obviously, again, it's how you deal with different issues that different people may have within your business.
Yeah.
And we do an awful lot around that. And we do a lot of role play around that. And we do, give lots of examples of how you would deal with certain aspects. And then performance management and coaching and mentoring fits quite well together, because the coaching and mentoring we would always do on a 6-day course. As an example, we would always do the coaching and mentoring first, get the people back in their businesses, and then maybe 2 months later look at performance management and say, right, okay, what have you implemented with that? How has that worked? Has it worked well for so-and-so, for so-and-so? You identified Mickey in your business that might have a problem with this. What have you done in relation to that? And then basically go through what they can do, or what these management people can do to try and help develop their team even further. So there's Simon, I could go on for hours about this, honestly. So there's
a few points there, though, isn't there? That ongoing one as well, and you mentioned it earlier, the reason you stay in touch with it, Zoom there as well. There's a degree of, there's taking ownership, isn't it, and responsibility, people committing to what they're going to do and then sticking with it. Whereas, as we said, if they're going on just one of those external sessions and that's kind of it, then actually, nobody really gets held to account, do they? So that's really, I can understand why that has such an impact, really.
No, it does, because 90% of training, people will tell you that exactly that happens. You go for the day out, you come back, there's nothing implemented back in the business. You'll have a chat with it about your team the next morning. Think we should do this, think we should do that, and generally nothing's done about it.
Yeah.
The great thing is, from our point of view, what we do, a month later, we've got everyone on a Zoom call. Right, okay, what have you done with this? What have you done with that? How have you implemented this? How did that work? How could it work better?
Yeah.
all that sort of side of stuff. So yeah, it's massively important.
And and then as well, looking at personalities, it's funny you were talking about that. There was I won't mention them, but there was a really well-known business, a forward-thinking one, and they had five area managers essentially, and they wanted to, rather than just give a financial, reward bonus tied around the targets that year, he thought he'd spend the time to actually understand what they wanted, to give them a much more bespoke kind of inducement, encouragement to do it. And all five of them came back with absolutely, differing views on that. Some of them wanted the work-life balancing. When they finish at 6, they wanted to finish at 6. One of them wanted the readies, wanted the ability to go off. One of them wanted to, train and develop and help get into. It was fascinating, isn't it? And we shouldn't be surprised, of course, because we see when it goes wrong, don't we? They really didn't understand that person. It becomes the least surprising thing ever when you see people moving on. I suppose it's always easy to spot after the event, with hindsight, isn't it? But what this approach does surely is it's that continual touch points actually that enables you to be much more connected with the people within your business, which is bizarre because, as you said, you're with them day in, day out, but are you spending that quality constructive time?
Yeah, there's that, and it's also as well the ability to recognize when there are issues. I think that's the one big thing, and how you address those issues. I mean, there's we talk about, we do a piece around what we call the A players and C players, A players, B players, C players, D players. The C players is effectively, for want of a better expression, the terrorist in your business.
Yeah.
The person that's, the mood hoover, the guy that stood at the coffee machine and, whenever he's, everyone's someone's back, what you're doing today, and, a lot of old nonsense in the meeting this morning, those sort of people. But those people are like that for a reason, and quite often you'll see that generally they would have been A players in your business. They would have been the top people in the business because their attitude is fantastic. Their attitude, though, stinks. And it's just one of those where, you need to be able to identify. Now, generally, the change or the reason they've slipped from an A player to a C player is effectively because they've not had that recognition. They've not had that reward. They've not got the respect that they think they should have. And quite often, those sort of people, they can quite easily be trained. And famously, I always remember about 3 years ago, the business we worked with in London, we were talking about that. And we had a team of 15 guys. And we always say it jokingly when we're talking about it. We always say, right, okay, when we talk about C players in the business and the terrorists in the business, we always say, do you know anyone within your business? And we always say, don't point, because we don't want anyone embarrassed or anything like that. No. And one guy put his hand up. And I looked at him and we'll call him Gary. I said, yeah, Gary, what's it? He went, I'm a C player.
Really?
Yeah. I went, it's the first time that's ever happened. I went, tell me why. He said, do you know what? He says, I've been looked over 3 times for promotion.
Wow.
He said, and I'm really, I said, have you spoken to your boss about it? He went, no. Anyway, I mean, it was a case of, we called the business and we spoke to the boss and just said to him, I said, look, what do you think of so-and-so? And he went, we think he's a great guy, but we've noticed a real change in attitude over the last 6 months. I said, have you had one-on-ones with him? Have you discussed it? He went, no, we've not been doing it. And that's another thing. The amount of businesses that don't do that on a regular basis, one-on-one reviews, either monthly or bi-monthly, are massive because you stop this. And anyway, we had a conversation. We told him what had happened. They sat down. They had a long chat. That guy's a great sales manager in one of the offices now, and he's doing absolutely massive, fantastically well.
But they are savable, just because they get down to those, and I suppose that process should be very clear, shouldn't it? It should be about, can they be moved back up or otherwise moved on, isn't it?
Yeah, they move on. And to be honest with you, quite a lot of them move on and they absolutely flourish in another business.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It really is amazing.
It is, again, shameless name drop. I remember Peter Rollins going on about it, and he was always known as obviously quite a tough firer. But he made the point as well that it was always about the other person, and that right for the business. But actually, if they're in that CD role, then it's not right for them anyway, is there? So there's no point persisting on that basis, is there?
No, there's no point persisting. You have to nip it in the bud. I mean, unfortunately, there's the D players, there's the plodders that come into work because it's what they did yesterday.
Yeah.
And all they're interested in is what the paycheck is at the end of the month. It's going to be the same as last month, and those sort of people. Unfortunately, again, you know, they have to be kissed goodbye out of business, but they will go elsewhere and they will find their niche, because there's a niche for everyone. Realistically, you know, if they've got past, and it always amazes me as well how those sort of people, they must impress at interview, because you would not take somebody on like that. So
I mean, that is, let's be honest as well, you'll know this better from your recruitment side, is the vast majority of people these days, you know, are getting very good at interviewing well, aren't they? You know, there's so many resources for them in terms of knowing what to say and everything else out there, that it's still an important part of the process now, but it can't be all of the recruitment process, can it?
No, not at all. I mean, you know, the guys going in, and unfortunately, you can always tell as well from our point of view, from the recruitment company point of view, is the questions they ask us. You know, when you get people who want it, they ask, you know, they want to know what the culture and value is like in the business. They want to know, you know, how long we've worked with the business. Would we, you know, hand on heart, would we recommend that business? You know, there's a lot of people that ask that. But then again, there's still an awful lot out there that are just, okay, can you get me an interview? Probably do very little research, go in, interview really well. And, you know, before you know it, it's, you know, a month down the road, thinking, the businesses are thinking, right, okay, we made a mistake here. So, you know, we're very sort of thorough in what we do in relation to, you know, making sure we get the right people for the right businesses and setting them, you know, setting their expectations right. I think managing expectations is probably the best way of putting it.
And you know, you were talking there about those personality types, famously your reds, as you said, there's the greens, or the empathetic blues, or whatever else is there. Are the reds the easiest to manage because they are, you know, they're probably the clearest personality type, or actually once you understand how to deal with the other ones, are they all much of a muchness?
Yeah, I think they're all the same. I think it's just a matter of understanding, because, you know, at the core, you know, they've gone and worked, they've wanted to work there, or they wanted to explore a career in a estate agency. They want to be in the property market generally. You know, so, or the property sector, should I say, generally. So I think it's just, all it is understanding, Simon. And once you do understand it, it's not rocket science. It's just knowing, you know, who to put an arm around, who to sit down and read the right act to, you know, knowing full well that you're going to get a positive response rather than a negative one. You know, and who to treat in all those very different ways. So there's no easier person to manage, I don't think. It's just the knowledge or knowing how to manage those different people.
And when they've run out of options, just send them through to Kerfuffle. You know, we'll take anyone. So that's actually, as a matter of interest, I know you deal with a lot of the suppliers as well. Do prop tech people, are they different, or, you know, and in fact you've said yourself you worked in other industries. Is there any such thing as a property person, a prop tech person, or are people much of a muchness?
That's a good question. That is a good question.
I can see you surprised that I've asked one.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking, really. I've never sort of given it much consideration. I don't think, from a candidate point of view, I don't think, you're talking presumably about the people who work currently in the businesses and that sort of thing. Not from a candidate point of view, I think they're probably, how can I put this? There's more desire, I think, with people who are working, who have got roles within a prop tech business. I think, you know, it's, you know, I think there's more of a hunger, if you like.
Is that because it's more of a calling for them, or something that or rather they've probably grown up within that business and the connection's greater, or?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know. I think they're a different ilk. I think they're very money driven.
Yeah, okay. The only reason I say is because surely departmentally, and again, I'm not trying to, you know, paint everyone, but, you know, property management people, you know, there are a lot of green personalities in there as well, and you know, whereas the reds do tend to deviate towards sales. I don't, you know, those are just some of the truisms. You can debate it all you like, but I think they are true for a reason.
No, listen, you know, you can talk about, you know, the analytical people and people that are very factual about how they go about things. They're typically, you know, accountants, financial directors, those sort of people. Very sort of matter of fact. They'll go through everything with a fine tooth comb. Whereas, you know, your sales-driven people, your red people are out there, and it's right, okay, let's just go and get it. Let's not ask too many questions. If we can get the deal done, we get the deal done, you know? So it's knowing, and it's also as well, what we do very much is encourage those people to sort of, everyone's got a little bit of everything in them, don't get me wrong. Everyone, but so it's just a matter of turning it up and turning it down at the right times. You know, as a really sort of outgoing, listen, you know, some of the antics that you get up to on your social media is fantastic. But, you know, that's not the sort of thing a lot of the time you'll do, you know, when you're going into a boardroom meeting.
Yeah, it's not 100% of the time.
Although probably you won't go, to be fair.
So, I'm guessing as well that some of the support you give for businesses is very much around, you know, not just finding the right ones there, but how do you spot them? How do you keep them going forwards on that basis? So it's genuine. It's a true collaborative thing over a period of time on some of the models you have anyway.
Yeah, most definitely, without a doubt. You know, anybody that we engage with the business, you know, we put in a call generally a month, 2 months after they've started, make sure, you know, they're getting on, their expectations have been managed properly, that they, you know, that the business is what they thought it was, and that, you know, that way that also allows us to feed back to the business as well, obviously, you know, and let them know just how the guys settled in. So that's something we do on a regular basis, and I think it's important as well. You know, have they put a plan in, you know, what's your development plan? You know, what's going to be happening, especially with the younger generation at the moment. You know, what they told you about your development plan over the next sort of 12 to 18 months. Yeah. And, you know, lots of businesses, the majority of businesses that we deal with have got that in place. So, you know, they'll answer the questions accordingly. We'll know that they're going to answer in a positive manner. But yeah, listen, it's, you know, it's a case of we want to keep in touch with these guys for obvious reasons. We want to help in their development, and, you know, we want to go make sure that we're putting the right people with the right businesses, and that the businesses are doing the right thing by them as well.
And your generation-wise, you said, they have a reputation for being exceedingly flighty. You know, you look at their CVs and they might have had, you know, 5-10 businesses in their first 5 to 10 years of work. Is that a reality that they're looking out there for life experiences, or is that because those businesses, do you think, haven't actually delivered on those, on understanding their needs?
I think it's probably a bit of both. Okay. And there's obviously, I think the ability to be able to realise that during the interview process from a business point of view is obviously important, because you don't want somebody who, for whatever reason, for no reason whatsoever, let's say, 12 months down the road hands a notice in just because they fancy a change. You know, you want to make sure that you've got people within your business who are looking for a career in property. They've got, you know, they're going to show loyalty to the person that gives them the opportunity. I think that's important as well. But there's no doubt about it, Sam, is that the demographic as a whole is very, very different. You know, there's as I said earlier, I think there's this whole thing around brand loyalty, and, you know, a lot of people will change, as you alluded to there. You know, in their first sort of, you know, 5 to 10 years, they may have 4 or 5 different roles. So, you know, that's why it's important that we nurture these people. That we ensure we've got them in the right businesses, and that once they are in those businesses, that we give them the development and, you know, and the help that they want. You know, there's a lot of stuff talked about at the moment about well-being, you know, the mental health issues and all that sort of thing, which is obviously massively important. So, you know, businesses need to ensure that they take all that on board.
I was going to ask you about that, Steve. So, I mean, you know, what a challenge for the moment is, after these last 2 years of lockdown and everything else, I mean, hopefully it's all, touch wood, going back to normal and everything else. But, you know, that's reaffirmed itself into people's requirements now, that many of them want to have 2-3 days, you know, in the office and everything else there. How do you, you know, one of the things that I don't get is, first of all, how do you manage to, you know, how do you manage to manage that when you've got differing personality types and the same people in the team wanting different things? That's really difficult. But then also as well is where does the osmosis effect of training come from when you're not picking it up from being within the business there? I mean, that even more so, you've got to have a training and development structure around you, haven't you, to make sure that these people are not missing out on what we all took for granted, as you said, 10 and 20 years ago. Yeah,
I think it's a massive challenge, Simon, at the moment. I think it's a huge challenge. I mean, my oldest son, who's just actually walked in, he's a reporter for a journalist for one of the newspapers. And they obviously for the last 2 years he's been working from home.
Yeah.
And that is an environment where generally you would be, you want everyone in the office. We all seen the old films and all the hacks are in the office, and the stories are flying here, there, and everywhere. And whilst it's probably not quite like that, it's so you imagine that change. They went from that to totally working from home, being set up from working from home. Now they're looking at maybe going back into the office maybe 1 or 2 days a week. So it's being able to adapt, which is the massive thing, and able to adapt in such a way that what they've done is they've said to certain people, listen, what do you want to do? Do you want to come in the office 3 days a week? Do you want to come in 2 days a week? So they've given the guys the option. And I think whilst with a state agency, that's obviously very difficult. I think there is a lot to be said for, talking to people about how they want to work, and also from, whether it's talking about finances or that work-life balance, or, spending more time with the family and that sort of thing. Somebody comes to you, as a business owner and says, look, 4 o'clock, it's, I've got the kids' sports day. And, to me, that's a no-brainer. That should be get out there, because all of our priorities in life are our kids. Yeah. Get out there, go to the sports day, not a problem. You're going to get a more engaged employee coming back from the guy who goes, no, you can't. You work till 6 o'clock. Those are your hours. That's what you should be doing. Who's going to be your most engaged employee the next day? Yeah. And for however much longer, So we have to listen to these guys. We have to listen to what they're saying, and we have to manage both their expectations and our own of what we expect from them as business owners.
Cool. Well, look, summarising then, so look, I mean, as we know, performance and productivity, does increase sometimes immensely from the time and energy you put into these. As you said, there is a clear causal link between that investment in training and development and productivity. I think everyone knows that. You made the point as well that the impact of business, it's not just about the person that's been sent on that course, is it? That osmosis effect is very real, as long as they communicate it back to the rest of the team as well. So it's another reason to look at it. Look, I think, one of the key things for me is, you've proven yourselves. I think you work with 10 of the highest performing agencies in the UK as well, who've sent their directors and management team there as well. I mean, that tells you that those aren't accidental statistics then, are they?
No, and there's no, there's no, listen, we know the businesses that we work with, it's no accident that they are, the top performing businesses, the top performing independent businesses, that we've worked with for now many times. They whenever they identify a new manager within the business, we get a call, when's your next leadership or management call? They know what we achieve. They know what we achieve, and they know what their guys have achieved going back into the business. And as you say, that osmosis effect, it's not just the guy who goes back to the business, it's everybody who works underneath them. And it's, I'm not going to name drop, but there's some of the greatest names, obviously, in our industry, got the greatest businesses. They engage with us regularly, and they engage with us regularly because they know what we do works. And, we're very proud to be working with these guys.
Perfect. Well, look, people, if you want to have the chance to tap into some of this as well, and to suss out, you've got a special deal, haven't you, at the moment, Steve? I think you've got 3 big events going on around the country, teaming up with the likes of Moneypenny, isn't it?
Yeah, so we were at, obviously with yourself, we were at Moneypenny with the ICG guys a few months ago. Yeah. I spoke to the guys there and spoke to Joe and just said, look, I was actually only inquiring as to whether we could hire out their pub, because what a great business that is. You got a pub within the building.
Yeah, I'm not sure that helps productivity for the people. Yeah.
So we got together, we got chatting, and we just agreed that what we would do, because the idea is to have a taster day up at Moneypenny. So they've very kindly joined us and are subsidising the events. So we're doing, I've got the dates here, May the 5th at Moneypenny HQ. Yep. We're at Silvermere Golf Club, which is in Surrey, just off the M25A3 junction, on June the 7th. And July 27th, we're in Watkins Country in Belton Woods Hotel and Spa in Grantham.
Lovely.
So if you'd like to come down and see us, that'd be great. And rather than the normal price we charge of £295 plus VAT per delegate, we're effectively doing it for £99 plus VAT.
I love the way when you started talking money there, you got the little ding as well. That was like...
thought I'd actually turn that off a digger, but I just realised it actually comes up. It comes up on my screen as well. But that was well timed. Make sure you
it was a bit of effect. Let's be honest though, then, Steve. You know, for the sake of under 100 quid, you can get a real taster for this and understand that this is something that's going to, you know, help your teams in the future. That's fantastic value.
Yeah, it is, and there's only 40 tickets for each event. So get in quick. I will have a link which I can give you guys. So I mean,
put on for that, and we'll knock it on to the end of this when it goes out as well. Put it out on the relevant places, but absolutely. And of course, as we always say, go and have a look at Crux on the landing pages on kerfuffle.com. See, you know, Steve's been really good here. He hasn't shouted about it, but there's a lot of those fantastic businesses who are leaving, you know, really, really positive comments on there. And many times, those are the people that have obviously been on the courses, not just the business owners who may have sent team members there. So that's what it's all about. Learn about, you know, who these people are. These people are there, and as you said, there really is no accident in this at all in terms of fun out. And so, and what are they going to learn on the day then? There, Steve, you said this is taster. Who should it be for? Sorry, just to be clear, really clear there. Who should be sent along on these courses?
Ideally, who we'd like to see is directors, managers, business owners, people that ideally we've not engaged with before. It's it's obviously a case of us introducing. Obviously, Moneypenny, you know, if you don't know too much about what those guys do, and if you don't, I don't know where you've been hiding, because they're phenomenal. So they'll
have answered a call to you, just didn't know it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly, without a doubt. So yeah, just directors. So in terms of actual personnel, directors, business owners, managers within a business, we are going to limit it to 2 people per business, purely and simply because of the limited numbers. But those are the sort of guys. Topics we'll be covering: performance management, conflict management, which we've discussed, behavioural traits of colleagues, communicating as a leader, high impact coaching and mentoring, time management, and importantly, how to build a high performing team. So a lot of content, but it's fun.
There's so much going on there, Steve. You should probably get time management out on the first bit to make sure you can look at all the rest of it over the course of the day. There you are.
Good tip, Sam. Thanks. So yeah, fun interaction, lots of great learnings, and as you say, for 100 quid plus VAT per delegate, it's for absolutely nothing. So yeah, please, you know, anybody who wants to have a look at what we do, just jump onto the link that takes you through to our website. You inquire, and if you've got a few questions, that inquiry will come through to me. I'll give you a call, and we can talk about, you know, what we'll be delivering on the day. And obviously, the wider point, if anybody has got any training requirements right now and wants to discuss that, more importantly, then just give me a call. You put my details, no doubt, on this.
Absolutely great, Steve. Really enjoyed that, of course, there. And as I said, close to my own heart as well. I've seen many of the people that work with you businesses, and it's a fantastic business to be involved with, and it must be nice as well from your point of view, Steve, seeing these people develop as well. There's got to be a huge payback on that.
There is. You know, I've been in sales all my life, and I would say probably for the first 30 years of my life, it was just all about the money. Yeah. You know, what's the reward for selling this? Yeah. Whereas now, the last sort of 7 or 8 years that I've been involved doing this, it's more rewarding. Yeah. You know, don't get me wrong. You've
turned into Generation Y and Z yourself. See, this is what happens.
You think? Is that what's happened?
This is why you're looking much more Peter Pan like.
I very much doubt that, mate, to be fair.
Right, Steve. Well, look, thank you very much for that. As we said, people get in touch with him, and we'll catch up with you over the coming months on some of the other shows.
Great stuff. Thanks, Sam. Thanks for your time, mate.
Cheers, Steve. Cheers, mate.
All the best.